Hello, I'm the Nostalgia Critic. I remember it so you don't have to. Hey everybody, it's January. You know what that means? Probably not, because I just made it up. It's Nickelodeon Month! Nickelodeon, the first television network made for kids, by kids. Well, okay, not by kids, that would be stupid, but certainly the first television network for kids. This was a groundbreaking channel with a groundbreaking notion. And what did this groundbreaking creation give us? Mostly British and Canadian shows. But we didn't care, it was on all the time! That is until evening when it would switch over to older adult shows on Nick at Night. But even those were so implausible and ridiculous that we enjoyed them too. But let's be honest, after a while there's only so many reruns and syndicated shows that they could run. So Nickelodeon finally made the logical choice to produce their own material. And what was the result? Nicktoons, a series of cartoons made specifically for the Nickelodeon channel. There were many of these cartoons, and they even continued the trademark name of Nicktoons even to this day. But we were there when they first popped up, and don't you forget it. So, let's take a look at one of their finest and certainly strangest of shows, Ren and Stimpy. A lot of people have mixed feelings towards this cartoon, and there's a good reason. It's friggin' insane! Little made sense, and half the time the humor came from just how totally out of control and psychotic it was. And it kicked ass! Sure, it was gross and vulgar, but on the other hand, it was gross and vulgar. Kids love that kind of stuff, and this was one of the first cartoon shows to totally engross us in it. I mean, no other cartoon looked or acted like this. It was something completely different. So, how do I really describe what this show is like? Well, it stars a big dumb cat named Stimpy and an angry Mexican chihuahua named Ren.
You sick little monkey!
And the rest, in all honesty, is pretty much like talking to a kid on the ultimate of sugar highs.
Hey kid, what do you want to see on TV?
I don't know.
Have some candy.
I want to see a dog and cat dancing around like Jello. Then I want to see them hit their butts together, because butts are funny. Then I want them to tell my grandmother to suck eggs.
I'll teach your grandmother to suck eggs.
And then I want them to take a hammer and smash themselves on the head with it.
One of the biggest controversies about the show is whether or not Ren and Stimpy are gay. To which the creator of the show, John Kay, answered, I don't know, that's none of my business. To be honest, I already talked about this show before in one of my countdowns, so I'm not going to go into too much detail. But let's just say the show definitely knew how to capture the craziest side of our silliness. So, let's move on to Nickelodeon's other biggest hit, Rugrats. This was made at a more innocent time, where crawling babies were funny, men with purple hair was acceptable, and keyboard synthesizers seemed to rule the earth. The show was pretty much about babies. And that's it. It was pretty much just about babies. Adventure Home! So they dealt with tough, nail-biting dilemmas like, can't the dog come with us? Or, do we need to take a nap? Or, you want me to do what on there?
I call it getting potty trained.
Actually, this episode is probably one of the most famous, as it talks about what all little kids love to talk about, shitting.
They're trying to make me use that instead of my diaper.
Aw, that can't happen. Yeah, how's it gonna fit in your pants?
Aw, this is just too precious.
Maybe you could just stop pooping altogether.
And that's just gross.
Maybe you could put a lot of napkins in your pants and use them like a diaper.
That's even grosser.
Maybe you could poop in your room and hide it in your toy box.
Okay, stop! Stop! Look, whether you call it poopy or poo-poo or whatever, it's still shit! You're talking about shit! Knock it off! You're grossing me out!
Uh-oh.
Oh, that's charming.
They can't make me. I'm gonna wear my diapers forever, and nobody is gonna stop me.
Don't worry, kid. When you get to be 80, you have to wear them again anyway. Speaking of growing up, I always imagined what these kids would look like when they eventually got older. I think everybody imagined that. Like, Chucky would grow up to be Garth, Tommy would grow up to be Paul Giamatti, twins would grow up to be John and Joan Cusack because they already look alike, and the always power-hungry Angelica, well, for some reason I always saw her as Hillary Clinton. I can't help it, it's just the first thing that popped in my head. Actually, something I always noticed about these cartoons is that they always open in a strange way. That is, they usually do an extreme close-up of something and then eventually back off to show us what it is. That sounds fine and good, but what happens when the image almost looks perverted like this one? Is it two pigs humping? Is it the inside of a woman's... What is that? Oh, it's the inside of a dog's mouth panting. Duh! Though the other kids are cute, I guess, the one kid that everyone seems to remember is Angelica for being such a bratty little bitch.
You little babies really make me laugh. Can I tell the phone? Ha 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 ha. Don't you dummies know anything?
Yeah, everyone remembers how harsh she was, but here's the thing. She's so mean that she's actually kind of creepy. Don't believe me? Look what happens when I put her face over these disasters. But not even Angela and all her negativity can prepare you for the scariest, ugliest, most horrifying creation that Nickelodeon Studios has ever produced. Doug. Now perhaps some of you are wondering why I think so harshly of what appears to be a relatively harmless cartoon. Well, let's just say you knew someone with a very similar name, someone who grew up with that name all his life, and happened to be raised at the exact same time this show came out. Do you think any jokes or funny remarks in connection with this show could possibly affect his life in any negative way? Do you? Do you?
Correct, it's Doug Funny! Hey, Doug Funny, where's Patty Mandy? Hey, Doug Funny, on the way to school? You're good, Funny! You're good, Funny! You're good, Funny! You're good,
Whoa! Excuse me, just having another one of my random psychotic episodes brought on by this very show. Luckily, I didn't take anyone's life this time. But with that said, this was a pretty lame show. I mean, the show was pretty much just about a kid who went to high school, and that's it. It was pretty much just about a kid who went to high school.
Adventure, oh?
Doug, or Doug Funny if you want to know his full name, has some very odd friends like Mosquito Valentine, Bud Dink, his dog Porkchop, and Patty Mayonnaise. What is up with these names? What, you didn't have room for Johnny Picture Frame? Larry Toilet Paper? Or Susie Contraceptive? He spends most of his time going after Patty Mayonnaise because, well, she looks pretty. And apparently that's all he needs.
Patty Mayonnaise.
She's just as bland as I am.
Also, what is up with everybody's skin color in this show? Did the town get infected by radioactive poisoning?
Yo, man, let me take care of this.
I never liked them blue people. On top of that, the music always sounds like it's literally farting out its soundtrack. Just listen. We're gonna need a faster tempo. Howard, more pork and beans. There's also this bully named Roger who constantly tries to make Doug's life a living hell. Why? Because all kids with leather jackets are just bullies now. Didn't you know that? It's like an official law. He also travels around with his pet cat named Stinky, who probably lives up to his namesake. This show is so unrealistic. I mean, what kind of boy would travel around with a cat, wear leather, cover his hair in gel, obsess over his looks, and constantly go after a submissive boy roughly his age? Oh... I think the best way to describe this show is that it's kind of like the early episode of The Simpsons. They're not funny, not well animated, and surround you in a world of awkward uncomfortableness. But whereas The Simpsons got funny, Doug just psychologically tortured me for life. I mean, psychologically tortured anyone named Doug for life. Nacho! Ah, Rocco's Modern Life. This show was kind of like Ren and Stimpy, except maybe a little bit more reserved and not quite as controversial. But it did capture a lot of the zaniness, as the show's main character was a tiny kangaroo with an Australian accent, who, for some reason, has a gigantic hole in his face. Must have been the battle of the boomerangs, koala bears, and wallabies. You know, the Great War of the Australian stereotypes. Where the dingoes flew high into the night, attacking the armies of shrimp on the Barbie. But the ancient League of Fosters bombed all the alligator hunters, leaving nothing but the kangaroos and eucalyptus leaves to brave the darkness. Or so I've heard.